Got a 2006 Buick Rendezvous hub bearing. It makes a growling noise driving down the road and changes when you turn the wheel right to left. And this one is really bad. Watch. I don't know if you can see it or not. Here. But that's pretty bad. How about over there? But anyway, we're going to replace it. Okay, so you need to jack it up, support it properly. Remove your tire. It's 19 millimeters on the studs and the lug nuts. Alright? Alright, the tire's off. Now you need to remove is your tie rod end nut. If it's the one with the Teflon lock nut on it, you'll need to heat it up with a torch. Propane, map gas, or whatever. Heat it up. Then you can remove the nut. If the stud is turning, the ball stud is turning on the tie rod, you need to get a big bar and push down on it into the taper. Okay, like that. So that helps keep it from turning, and you can remove the nut. Once you get the nut loose, and you hit the knuckle with the big medium sledgehammer, break the taper loose. You'll hear the difference in the sound of it when you hit it, when it comes loose. And once it's loose, you take the tie rod end off, and then you can swing the knuckle in, and you can get to your caliper bolts. You can remove the caliper, or you can remove the caliper knuckle bolts. I'm going to remove the caliper knuckle bolts. Those are 215s. All right, if you're going to do brakes, now's the time to do brakes. Brakes have been done on this before, so they're good. If you're going to do brakes, then you need to remove these two caliper bolts. Remove your caliper, push your piston in. Remove your caliper bracket, clean up the slides that actually mount the pads. And then you can remove your rotor, clean up the surface behind it on the hub. We're going to replace the hub anyway. But anyway, then you can put on a new rotor and you can put it all back together. But I'm not doing that. So we're just going to remove the two caliper bracket bolts, and those are 15s. Caliper bracket bolts, two of them. Remove your caliper, slide it off to the side. Watch out for your rotor. It doesn't fall off and hit you in the foot or hit your airline. You should put a nut on it beforehand so it doesn't fall off. I forgot. So now you remove your rotor. And then next is to remove the nut on the shaft. Axle nut is a 34 millimeter, and you want to remove that. And then you want to come over here and tap on it to see what's in store. As long as it goes in, you're doing fine. If it's solid on there, then you're going to be in trouble. But this one's been done before. So now we need to remove the 3 bolts that are holding the hub bearing on to the knuckle. Those hub bearing bolts are a 13 millimeter. If they're stripped off, then you can try a 1/2 inch. But in the beginning, you should try a breaker bar with a cheater bar, a pipe, piece of conduit, or something that fits onto your breaker bar snugly. So now you want to break them loose. And then you can use your 3/8 gun or whatever you have to finish getting them off. But you need to break them loose first with your breaker bar, okay? Otherwise, you might round the heads off. And just so you know, when you're doing the top one, use a 3-inch extension, all right? And break it loose. Okay. I did 2, now I gotta turn it, and I get the other one on the back side. All right, I got the bolt on the back, right about here in the back side. So now I need to unplug the sensor, unplugged it. Now I just need to take it off the little bracket. You're gonna squeeze these little tabs in. And you can push the whole connector off. As you push the little tabs in off the metal. Okay. Remove your bolts, and then you can pull the bearing off. You have to tap it with a hammer. Sometimes you have to beat them off. This one's got anti-seize on it, so it's been off before, so it'll come off pretty easy. And you need to push the shaft in so you can pull your connector in between the shaft and the knuckle. Forgot. What holds this connector is this bracket, and it's held on to that bolt for the hub bearing is a stud with a nut. So you remove that 13 millimeter headed nut and you can remove this bracket. And now I gotta break the tape, break this bolt loose, and I can remove it. Okay, I got 3 bolts out. Okay, now you need a decent sized hand sludge. Tap it off. This has been replaced before. If yours hasn't been replaced, then you have to bang on it, bang on it, bang on it, because this is aluminum, this is metal, and they don't like each other, and they bond each other. So put some penetrant on it, let it soak, let it sit, and then you can eventually gonna get it. All right, like I said, you gotta push the shaft in so you can pull this connector out between the knuckle and the shaft. You gotta push that shaft in. You get a little bit of gap in there, gap in here. Okay, here it is. And this goes over by a tie rod end. Helps protect it from the elements. All right, so you need to clean this up. And then you need to clean your hub up. Not hub, your knuckle. Get this all nice and cleaned up. Get inside here so the new hub will go on there. Put some anti-seize on it, put some anti-seize on your shaft. And then push, get those two together. The little spacer plate and your hub. And you need to push this in. So you get a nice gap in there and you push that connector in there. All right, the knuckle's cleaned up. That little spacer's cleaned up. Make sure you put it in there like that. Okay, see how that's curved? I'm gonna put it in there like that, all right? So you wanna put it on your hub bearing like that. Make sure you clean off inside your rotor if you're reusing your rotor. All right, put some anti-seize on it and we're ready for assembly. The new hub came with this on the connector. I pried it up off of these first, and then I pulled it out of that. Came over to the old one, lifted this little tab up, a little notch there, and pushed it that way. It came off. So then I pushed this one on the new one. Pulls right on there. And then I go into my bracket. Okay. Alright, the hub's in there. Little spacer's in there. Spacer comes down here and protects the ball joint boot. I thought it was a tie rod, but no, it goes to the ball joint boot. Got your harness wire coming through right here. Okay. Now you can get your bolts on and get them started and snug them up. And then get them ready to be torqued. Okay, the hub bearing bolts. The spec is 130, which I think is nuts. I wouldn't go over 100. I'd do 90 because of the 13 millimeter heads on them. They're not very deep. You're going to strip them off. So I would go 90 on them. That's sufficient. Got them all torqued. Put your little bracket on there with your little nut. Put your connector together. Plug it in. Route the wire on this side of it. And you're good. And next you need to do is put your rotor on. Put some anti-seize in here. And then put your caliper on and your bracket bolts. All right, you got your caliper bracket bolts in, snug them up, torque them to 75 foot-pounds. Go over here, put your tie rod end back on, tighten it up. If it uses a cotter pin, line up your hole for your cotter pin on your castle nut and put your cotter pin in there. And next is your axle nut. That's 175 foot-pounds. See how I put vice grips on there to help hold my rotor on there. Okay. Okay. Snug your nut up. Get your torque wrench. Put it on there. Get a screwdriver. Stick it inside the rotor fins up against the caliper bracket. And help keep it tight so you can tighten this up. So you're prying against the screwdriver, okay? Otherwise, you won't be able to do it. Okay, so then you need to tighten her up. 175 foot-pounds. Okay, that completes your hub bearing. If you're gonna do the other side, do the other side exactly the same way. All right. Now you need to do is put your tire on and snug it up, the lug nuts, and torque them to 100 foot-pounds. Go inside the vehicle, pump your brake pedal, make sure you got a good firm brake pedal. Sometimes the piston gets pushed in and then your pedal goes to the floor and you can't stop the vehicle. So you need to pump up the pedal before you put it in drive or reverse. Okay, and that completes the hub bearing. If I helped you with this, that'd be great. Hopefully you can help me by subscribing, and I thank you.